We are back for another supplement spotlight. I'm Dr. Vasleen and I help high achievers unlock their brain's full potential. Every Wednesday, I've been breaking down the research of different supplements in the brain health world so that you can make better choices about what you're feeding your brain. Because let's be honest, there's so much information out there. And constantly in my practice, I'm having these conversations and answering these questions with my patients about what they have seen or heard online by some influencer. And oh my God, I swear these influencers annoy me so much. Also, side note, can you please make sure that you're being mindful of the information that you get from people online? There's nothing wrong with listening to people's stories and being curious, but if someone is like, this has worked for me, and you're just like, oh my God, I have to try it, then you have to understand there's like a million people like that online. Okay, so it's so easy to just get lost in the sauce, and I don't want you to waste your money, energy, time, and resources into just trying random things, that other people have tried. Like, go talk to a professional with someone with experience in this area. It will save you so much money and just energy in the long run. And it doesn't, like, I'm not even saying, like, don't even come to me. That's cool. Oh, cool. Just like choose someone in, whether it's in your area, whether it's online, and just follow what they have laid out for you. I swear it will make the absolute biggest difference for you. So today we're going to talk about ashwagandha. It is such a like buzzy supplement, and it's really, really well known in the brain health world. And a lot of us are familiar with it, but we're not really sure if it's going to be effective for us. One last thing before I dive into all the content, and I promise I just need to say this because I can't get in trouble with my regulatory body and I want to keep my license. So let's get serious for a second. So this video is only for educational purposes. It's not intended to diagnose, treat, or replace personalized medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider before starting any new supplement, especially for medication or have a health condition or are pregnant or breastfeeding. Okay, cool. All right, let's get back to some ashwagandha. So, ashwagandha. Like, where do I even start with the supplement? Because there's so much misinformation out there on it. I swear, I see this herb thrown around everywhere like it's the next magic pill to cure everything. You've probably seen it tossed in wellness circles, stress articles, and maybe even your protein shake ingredients so that protein companies can justify charging you like $70 for a protein shake. Okay, real talk though, the other day I was looking at buying protein shakes and I was like, why are you $70? It's like, why? Like, that's okay, financial abundance, right? Let's be grateful, blah, blah, blah. I've been working on my financial abundance stuff lately, but man, oh man, sometimes when I see the prices of these health products, I'm just like, how do you expect me to not complain? But whatever. Thank you, God, for gracing us with the financial means to buy us overly expensive protein shakes. Okay? All right, let's now actually really get back into this video that I'm going to cover. So, I'm going to be covering if ashwagandha is really good for your brain, if it reduces stress, and if it can do all the things that clever marketing today has convinced you of, like improving your sleep, energy, mood, and focus. We're going to dive into the science, the studies, and the mechanisms. And of course, as always, I'm going to be sharing my real world experience using it in my life and in my practice with my patients. So, stick with me till the end because I will share why ashwagandha is actually not a core part of my protocol and the only scenarios that I really recommend it to in my patients. First things first is to cover what ashwagandha is and to start with the basics. So, ashwagandha is an evergreen shrub. It's found in tropical and subtropical parts of Asia, Africa, and Europe. And so, this was a super cool fact while I was researching for this video that its name actually comes from Sanskrit. So, ashwa means horse and ganda means smell. And so that's because the root is said to smell like a wet horse, which is very interesting. And I have smelled it before and I don't think it smells like a wet horse, but also I don't know what a wet horse smells like. So maybe. All right. So now when we look at the species name of ashwagandha, the species is called somnifera, which in Latin actually means sleep inducing. So traditionally, this plant has been known to help people feel more grounded, restful, and resilient. And specifically in Ayurvedic medicine, it's been used in centuries as an adaptogen, which is a compound that helps people rest and recover from biological, chemical, and emotional stress. Most of the supplements of ashwagandha are made from the root, which is where the highest concentration of the therapeutic compounds, especially the withanolides, are found. So the withanolides are the key bioactive compounds that are responsible for a majority of ashwagandha's effects. So you want to think of them like the engine that powers its benefits. Now, what does ashwagandha actually do in the body? I'm going to go through a bunch of studies specifically for brain health, but from a general pharmaceutical perspective, it's been studied for a whole host of different things, like its anxiolytic effects, sedative and sleep inducing properties, anti inflammatory and antioxidant effects, immunomodulation and hormone regulation. It has also had an influence on hormones like thyroid, testosterone, dopamine, and even cortisol levels. So, Like, it seems like a pretty big powerhouse, right? So, while all that sounds promising, let's actually see if the science holds up to what it says, especially when it comes to brain health specifically. The first study that we're going to look at is stress, because that is the reason why most people reach for ashwagandha in the first place. One well designed study was done in Florida where they gave 60 men and women either 225 milligrams or 400 milligrams of ashwagandha for 30 days. Both groups saw improvements in stress, anxiety, depression, and even food cravings. It's a pretty small study, so let's look at another study that looked at overweight or mildly obese men in their 50s who had low energy and fatigue. They essentially took 200 milligrams extract 2 times daily of ashwagandha for 12 weeks. In this study, they didn't find a significant reduction in perceived stress, but fatigue improved noticeably. So, of course, this isn't a cure all for stress, but for some people, it does help reduce the intensity of stress symptoms, especially if fatigue and tiredness is a dominant part of the picture. And I remember when I was in naturopathic med school, one of my professors told me that it's great for that stressed, so tired or but wired state, right? Your body's feeling fatigued, but your mind just feels like it's running. Ashwagandha could be a really good indicator. And now for generalized anxiety disorder, studies recommend daily doses about 300 to 600 milligrams to see measurable effects. So, how does ashwagandha have that potential beneficial impact on sleep and stress? It does this by acting on something called GABA A receptors. GABA is your brain's primary calming hormone and neurotransmitter. So, these GABA A receptors are your primary calming brain receptors. It also has minor interactions with dopamine and serotonin systems, as well as reduces cortisol levels, which is your body's main stress hormone. One trial actually showed a 23% drop in morning cortisol, which is a marker of how revved up your system is when you wake up. So, kind of cool. Next, let's talk about ashwagandha and sleep. In a 2021 systematic review that looked at 372 adults over 6 to 12 weeks of supplementation. Doses ranged from 250 milligrams to 600 milligrams per day of root extract or 120 milligrams per day of root and leaf combination. And yes, the answer to what you're thinking is yes. Ashwagandha significantly improved sleep compared to placebo, especially at the 600 milligram dose and when the treatment lasted at least 8 weeks. Something to note here is that the effects were stronger in people with insomnia, which makes sense, right? The people who have trouble sleeping the most are also going to have the most beneficial impact from taking this supplement. I also want you to keep in mind that this isn't necessarily like a knockout herb, all right? What it does is to help ease the transition into sleep, reduce nighttime awakenings, and improve sleep quality for most people. Now, what about cognitive performance? These are some lesser known but interesting effects on memory, mental stamina, and executive functioning. In a recent 2024 study, researchers tested the effects of 600 milligrams of ashwagandha root extract on adults aged 30 to 75 with reported cognitive complaints. After 8 weeks, the participants showed improved executive functioning, better energy, and lower levels of mental fatigue. In another study, participants took a single 400 milligram dose and researchers measured their cognition over the next 6 hours. What were the results? Better working memory, sustained attention, and quicker reaction times. And now, to be clear, it didn't make them more reactive, but what the study is saying that it can potentially help with staying sharp, vigilant, and less mentally drained. The next part is a little interesting to know because I was interested in this content, but ashwagandha has been also used to enhance physical performance, and studies show that it can improve things like VO2 max, increase muscle strength and coordination, as well as support faster recovery from intense training. The studies indicate that this can be due to ashwagandha's ability to mitigate oxidative stress and inflammation caused by high intensity exercise. So, ashwagandha overall is known to be full of antioxidants like flavonoids, which is how it can potentially protect against that cellular damage and neuroinflammation that intense exercise can cause in our bodies. Now, of course, because this hormone does it all, it can also affect our hormones. This herb seriously really does a bit of everything. It's been shown to affect hormonal pathways, so things like increasing testosterone in men, not women. This was very interesting because there was one study done with ashwagandha and that's what they found. Now, the increase of testosterone in men was declared as statistically insignificant. It's also so important to know that. It's also been shown to lower TSH and increase T3 and T4 in hypothyroid individuals. So these are your thyroid hormones. And now this can actually be a double-edged sword. And this is where, again, I'm going to emphasize the importance of not taking supplements randomly because y'all don't know what you're doing. And I say that with the utmost love. There have actually been cases reported of thyrotoxicosis in women supplementing with this herb. It's been 3 cases, so very small, but it can happen where you can have too much of your thyroid hormones and that can cause toxic effects in your body. I have even in my practice helped some of my clients use ashwagandha to help improve their thyroid hormones as well. And what's important to note is that as soon as those 3 women stopped taking ashwagandha, their thyroid hormones returned back to normal. But important to note that it does interact with and can affect, your thyroid hormones and even interact with thyroid medication. So this leads me to the next section of safety and side effects and who should avoid this supplement. So generally, ashwagandha is well tolerated, especially at doses of up to 600 milligrams a day for 3 months. But possible side effects include stomach upset, nausea, drowsiness, and loose stools. There have also been cases of liver injury, especially when taken alongside other medications. And since it affects hormones, it's especially not recommended in pregnancy, breastfeeding, or with anybody who has hormone sensitive conditions like prostate cancer. So, super interesting. When I was doing this research, I didn't even realize this, is that Denmark actually banned ashwagandha in 2023. And this is because in 2020, one of the universities in Denmark discussed the thyroid and sex hormone effect and the potential abortant effect of ashwagandha. Now, here's the thing, is that one of the sources was a claim that a university made. It was this monograph made by the American Herbal Pharmacopoeia, and they literally said that this report is misrepresented and there's no evidence that ashwagandha, causes abortion. So, I don't know. I generally don't give it to any of my patients trying to get pregnant, are pregnant, and or are breastfeeding. So of course, what we've been waiting for now. I always do this drum roll now. Here's my verdict. Here's my honest truth. Ashwagandha is not a part of my core protocol, and I rarely recommend it to my patients as a standalone supplement. And why is that? It's because of my clinical experience, I really just haven't seen the outcomes that I would want from this supplement. Now, it doesn't mean that it doesn't work. I have found that it performs best when used in combination with other calming or adaptogenic herbs. For example, a supplement that I love to give my stressed out patients is called Cortisol Manager by Integrative Therapeutics. Also, by the way, none of this is sponsored. These are brands I genuinely love. And this Cortisol Manager supplement combines it with magnolia bark. Now, another supplement is called Sleep Matrix by Cytomatrix, which pairs ashwagandha with L-theanine, lemon balm, GABA, chamomile, and passion flower. And I feel like when it's just like used as this team player, when it's used with other things versus on its own, I find that it works so much better. Versus when you use it on its own, I find it to be a big hit or miss. And so this is where things in research don't always translate the same with clinical practice. Let me know in the comments before if you've used ashwagandha, what your experience has been. I would love to know. And also just let me know what other supplements you want to see covered for your brain health on Wednesday's Supplement Spotlight.